This is a bootleg, and so is this. And this one, well, that's an official figure. But you could have fooled me. This is the Transformers Devastation Studio Series Optimus Prime. I've reviewed a lot of bootleg, third parties, and official Transformers figures. So when I say this figure feels a little bootleggy, I'm totally not just saying it for extra views. Come on, why would I do that? I'm saying it because it really does feel like this figure dropped the ball. Some say it's a good figure, so I do want to give it a chance. And despite all its issues, there might still just be one reason to get this figure. We'll compare it to figures of the same price range to see if it gives us more or less value, as well as some actual bootlegs, and then the Commander class Optimus Prime. Right away, we'll see it comes in the new style of packaging. It doesn't have the numbers. Quick look at the side, the back, and the other side. Let's open it up. Here's the figure, and right away, it does seem a little bit bootleggy to me. Also, I need to add the smokestacks. Call me a fake Transformers fan. And here's the other one. So let's talk about the good and the bad, because this figure isn't the worst thing ever. For $20, you get what you pay for. Wait, no, it's actually $25. Okay, that changes things a little bit. Okay, let's start off with some of the bad. Even though this is a $25 figure, a lot of the issues it comes with is pretty inexcusable, especially considering it's a Studio Series figure, which generally has higher standards. These Studio Series video game figures haven't been kind. Maybe the figure doesn't look too bad, but the looks aren't everything. I do not feel like I got $25 worth of value, and as you watch the video, you might understand. My copy of the figure does unfortunately have some QC issues. There are some paint defects right in the chest of my figure, front and center. Not a big fan of these markings over here. Another issue is that the left arm has this over there. On the back side of the figure, there are some more QC issues on the arm. The $25 price tag doesn't justify the level of QC issues I'm having. It feels like I've bought a bootleg. These QC issues will vary from copy to copy, but the fact that this much got past quality control makes it feel like they gave up halfway through the production. Now the hollowness, goddamn, it's pretty bad on this figure. There are some other figures in this price range which were able to minimize that, so what happened here? Now this brings me to my next question, which is the same question I had for this figure. Should this have also been a Voyager class figure? It would have definitely gotten more budget, more paint, more accessories, maybe even an ion blaster, because this does not come with an ion blaster. You thought this was his ion blaster? No, that belongs to the Legacy Optimus Prime. Also, since it is a deluxe, it's kind of small, and there's nothing yet it properly scales with. But if this was a Voyager class figure, would people have wanted to buy it anyways? Let me know if you would in the comments below. Now the cell shading, why is it only in the chest? It makes it feel half-assed. This figure would have looked a lot better if we had more cell shading throughout the figure to resemble the video game aesthetic. Also, when we get to the vehicle mode, let me know what your guys' thoughts are, because to me it's kind of underwhelming. When this figure was officially announced, it was a bit controversial. A lot of people weren't happy with the way it looks, and honestly, I kind of get it. Some might say, oh, it's only a deluxe class figure, but we've had better deluxes in the past. To me, it seems kind of bootleggy, like something you could get on AliExpress. Well, maybe not anymore. Listen, we'll get to some of the good in a second. I don't want to be a negative silly goose guy, and I will later explain why you still might want to buy this figure regardless of its flaws. But first, let's talk about these bootlegs. This right here is a really cheap looking Optimus Prime bootleg. You can pretty much tell at first glance, but what if I told you it was an official figure? Okay, not really. It's kind of noisy, and the plastic quality isn't very great. Articulation is also garbage. It even kind of resembles a Gundam, which honestly, that's a plus point. Now this is the low-end version of a bootleg. Let's step it up a bit by looking at this Optimus Prime figure. So this is a knockoff of a third-party figure, so it kind of qualifies as a bootleg of a bootleg. Why is his head so goddamn tiny? The plastic quality on this is better, but not great, and the proportions are kind of off. Still though, it's got the basic Optimus Prime look, and it even comes with an ion blaster. Now back to Devastation Optimus. Okay, now there are some good things about this figure though. The transformation is really neat, and the figure itself feels fairly solid. The plastic quality seems pretty decent, and the joints are also really good. And I'll talk more about what I like by moving straight into the head sculpt. Pretty basic G1 head sculpt, but it gets the job done. It is definitely more rounded than the squarish look we're used to. However, that's not a bad thing. Obviously, there's not going to be a whole lot of detail on it. The figure itself doesn't have a whole lot of detail because of the video game art style it's based off of. I do like the gray paint on the mouthpiece. However, once we get to that like forehead area, there is some paint spillage on my copy of the figure. Once again, another annoying QC issue. This actual bootleg didn't even have any paint issues. Also a little nitpicky, but his head just kind of rests on top of his torso. There isn't any gap, so that does hinder any kind of up and down or tilting articulation for the head. The arms, they look perfectly fine, just like how they should. However, I will say I don't like the color of the smokestacks. In the game, they're silver, and over here, they're like grayish white. It really sticks out and doesn't look very good. This bootleg just has some red, while the other one has some painted silver. We have one Autobot insignia, which I believe is game accurate, and unfortunately, we do have hollowness over here. They're just big gaping holes. hollowness. This fake Optimus Prime also has hollowness. Now the way the hands are done are kind of weird. The sculpt of the hands is fine. It's more so the way the hands are done for the transformation. I feel like it makes the area look a little bit odd, and this red paint doesn't match the rest of the figure. Now the chest and the abs, obviously the classic Optimus Prime look. And you might think you can't open up the chest, but you actually can. If I can grab that. There we go. And we get a matrix in there. And when it comes down to the chamber, there is a little bit of detail on the inside. It's a little hard to see because of the lighting, but I'm glad they didn't just leave it plain. Although I will complain about the matrix later. I have a full-on rant for that. Now I don't really like the gaps over here underneath the chest. You can see straight through him. Also, what the hell is this paint smudge? How do my bootlegs have a better paint application than an official figure? Okay, now here's another thing I like. For this figure, they made the skirt piece part of the leg, so that really helps when it comes down to the articulation, which is something this Studio Series figure struggled with. Having the skirt piece over here just seemed kind of odd, and it was annoying to deal with when it came down to the articulation of this figure. When it comes down to the Studio Series figure, they just made the skirt piece movable, but having it be a part of the leg is really great. It sacrifices a little bit of crotch accuracy. Did I really just say that? I feel dumb. Okay, we're gonna move on. The legs do look pretty decent for the most part. The leg detail is pretty accurate. I do think the fuel tanks look kind of lame compared to something that's more prominent, and like how it is in the video game, this one's a bit more flat. Also, the inside of the legs, they're hollow. So I'm not sure why they made the mushroom peg red. It does kind of stick out when you're trying to pose the figure. I think blue would have been better for matching, but that's kind of a minor nitpick. Coming down to the wheels, I do like how they try to hide it a little bit on a deluxe class figure. It does stick out, but overall, it's not bad. Now, when we turn this figure over to... That's not the back. When we turn this figure over to the back, it does kind of fall apart in different areas. I don't really like this back piece sticking out, and I don't like how the wheels fold up over here. There's a lot of gaps over here, which don't really look too great. Now let's compare it to the G1 Universe Optimus, which is also a deluxe class figure. This is a figure where I actually feel like I got my money's worth. It's in that same price range, and the paint application on this is much better, and there's virtually no QC issues on this figure. He even has rubber tires. The Matrix, could have been better, but overall, this figure is really great. Okay, now side by side with the Commander class Optimus Prime, obviously it's gonna fall short, but the Devastation Prime really does capture the same type of Optimus Prime G1 aesthetic, and it does feel like a very budget version of this figure. Well, despite all its flaws, you might still want to get this figure because it probably will scale well with the Studio Series 86 Devastator. Will I be explaining the math? No, I don't want to edit all that, because I'm also working on this kind of massive Japan video right now. You'll see cool Transformers and actual Gundam, hoping to get it done soon, so make sure to subscribe for that. But now let's move on to the accessories. We'll start with the axe. I'm not really a big fan of this. It doesn't really need this sort of like whooshy movement bit. It feels like it makes me limited to where I can only do movement poses with the figure and not just have him hold it. Now let's open this up again. Ow. So we can take a closer look at the Matrix. I am disappointed by the lack of paint on here. It makes it look really bland and cheap, and it adds to the like cheap bootleggy feeling this figure kind of already has. The level of detail on it is great, and it should have been painted in like how it is on other figures of the same price range. Also, there's no goddamn ion blaster, which he even uses in the game. And once again, the argument of it being just a deluxe class figure doesn't work, because the G1 Universe Optimus came with 2 ion blasters and a really great looking Energon axe. But now let's move on to the figure's articulation, which is honestly pretty good. No up and down head movement unless we do this as part of the transformation. Spin this a full 360, arms out over here, full 360 arm rotation, an elbow bend, which goes 90 degrees. We can utilize this hand movement, which is for the transformation, waist rotation, but this piece at the back does block the rest of the articulation. Legs move forward, out to the side, all the way back there. Knee bend, which goes 90 degrees, rotation, and a very good ankle pivot. That is really great for poses. So with all this articulation, I think the figure gets some pretty decent poses. Now let's move on to the transformation and the vehicle mode. Flip the hands in on both sides of the figure. Next, I like to come down to the legs and remove the fuel tanks on both sides as well. Take these pegs over here and bring that out. This forms the trailer hitch for the vehicle mode. Take the wheels, rotate them out, rotate this one as well. We can now come down to the feet and close both of them up, forming the Lego hands. Take Optimus's head and break it, rotate it around, and bring it all the way back there. Take these wheels and flip them out to the side. Now on my copy of the figure, when I try to connect them, this one tends to pop off. Just like that. Stay. Back to the front, we'll grab these pieces from the side and bring them out. Rotate the figure around just the top half. Bring the legs up. Connect them for now. Bring this piece back and it should slide into that. Same with this one. We can take the fuel tanks and just snap them up to the front. Same with this. Now this part can be a bit finicky, so we're just going to do the classic Optimus Prime thing where we bring the arms back into the side. We need to make sure this piece is down so we can adjust this in. The same for this one. Bring that back down into the side, and That happens a lot on this figure. Get in there. Adjust that into place. And then just try to make sure the front grill piece is out all the way. And here is the vehicle mode for Optimus Prime. Honestly, it's not bad. It's not the best either. For $25, I wish it was a little better. And the trailer hitch, while I do appreciate there is one, really sticks out like a sore thumb. Minus those two issues, the trailer bed is pretty fine. The head is visible, but it tucks away pretty neatly. The smokestacks still stick out for being white. I don't like how the fuel tanks seem just inside out now. I know we have like a 5mm port here, but for the most part, you're not really gonna do that. Would have been nicer if this was the same as the other side. Coming further up, this bit looks a little bit empty to me, and then coming to the front, it's not too bad. We do have some of the color mismatching here due to the paint, and there's also this gap over here. These two bits don't connect any further. I do like how the grill piece is the same grill piece as the robot mode. It's not a faux grill piece, like how it is on the Commander Studio Series Optimus Prime, where you have the front grill piece and the vehicle mode one at the back. It's a little dinky, it's fairly small. Here it is next to the Transformers DeLorean. If you guys want to see a review on this, let me know in the comments below. Just kidding, I've already done a review on this. I tricked you, and you fell for it. So at first glance, this figure might not seem like it's too bad, but when you compare it to other figures and really start to think about it, like a fucking insane toy reviewer would, then it begins to fall apart, and I cannot excuse those QC issues. So obviously the figure is no Commander class Studio Series Optimus, but it still feels like I didn't get my money's value with this. I'm not asking for much, but just a little bit extra would have made this figure worth it. You're not missing out if you don't pick this up, but if you do find it for cheap, then it might be worth it. Now check out this other video over here that I think you might enjoy.